electoral fraud or electoral theft is like a war crime. Electoral fraud, electoral theft is like a war crime. Electoral fraud, electoral theft is like terrorism, is an act of terrorism. Electoral theft and electoral fraud may require international intervention. It is not an ordinary matter. The ballot is the basis of sovereign power. Each individual, each citizen is given a ballot as a tool for exercising sovereign authority. The moment a vote is stolen, that is undermining the authority of the sovereign who is the citizen, the people. Electoral fraud is an international crime. It should not be left to discussion or debate. It must be dealt with like other war crimes and international crimes. Electoral crime is as bad as domestic terrorism. You cannot condemn the domestic terrorism in Shakahola, but accept electoral fraud. That is doublespeak. That is dishonesty. And if Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government believe that they believe in the sovereignty of the people and democracy, they must make sure that the electoral fraud of 2022 is dealt with in accordance with the law. And the process of legal questioning is not simply a matter of judicial process. Judicial process is not the absolute solution of a political problem. One cannot keep on telling us that the Supreme Court spoke. There are many instances where many centuries later people realize that the judicial power and authority has been abused. And the only solution is through an alternative process, either international intervention or through an alternative process. And therefore, we will not tire in Kenya to talk about Raila's stolen votes. We are not going to be tired. We'll continue talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And if you want to take us to jail, we will go because we have been there. Nobody can threaten Raila with anything because if he's jailed, he has been there many years. Orengo Nyatieng, I have been jailed. I've been to a maximum security prison in Kamiti. I've been to a maximum security prison in Naivasha under solitary confinement. There were people who were taken to Nyayo House to fight for freedom and democracy and to guard the ballot. And some of them were tortured in Nyayo House. So nobody can lecture us about the finality of a court ruling. That we cannot accept. There's no finality of a court ruling. Because it is a constitution which says the people are supreme. The people are higher than the court. The courts are not made for animals. The courts are made for human beings. Human beings are served by the courts, not the people serving the courts. The judges are our servants because you are the people, you are the sovereign. Judges are not higher than you, just like the president is not higher than you. And I'm reminding Ruto, please, please, if it was not for Raila, even to get a pathway to stand for a presidential election, you will never have stood for any presidential election. But it is because Raila cleared the way. Under the old KANU, because Ruto and his group were used to that YK92. Not about democracy, it was all about YK92. So they must respect Raila Amolo Odinga. So, we as a people are saying electoral injustice is an act of terrorism, is an act of political terrorism, and we cannot rest until that act of terrorism is dealt with within the framework of international law and within the framework of the law, because under the Elections Act, Section 44, there's a procedure for post-election audit of election material and equipment, which includes the servers. It does not mean that after the court has made a ruling, you cannot have access to those servers. So a lot of this balderdash, a lot of this nonsense must stop. And there are people out there who I believe are educated idiots because the things they are saying, somebody who has been to a proper school should not be talking about Kenya being an entity where there are shareholders and others are not shareholders. The moment you say that Kenya belongs to shareholders, you are giving the right of those who are not shareholders to seek an alternative. The first person who is calling for secession is not Raila Amolo Odinga or Azimio, is Rigathi Gachagua, who is saying that Kenya only belongs to shareholders. And to him, there are only two shareholders, Rigathi Gachagua and Ruto, because the rest are just their followers. Only two shareholders. Sisi wa Kenya wote tuko shareholders in nchi hii, Jamhuri ya Kenya. We have a right to be here. We have a right to be here. We have a right to be everywhere in Kenya. And Raila has a right to continue to fight for the right of Kenyan people. Whether he's in government or outside the government, Raila must continue